Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. In this video I want to look at how we can take some basic chords, add some melody notes to create something that sounds a bit like this. So this style of playing really blurs the line between rhythm and lead, and it's great for adding some interest to your playing when it's not appropriate to play a full-on solo like in an intro or a verse. It's also great when you're playing on your own or in a one guitar setup, hence why like Jimi Hendrix and the Red Hot Chili Peppers have used it a lot. Now it's all just based around the normal bar chord shapes, but you will need to adjust your technique a little bit, as we'll see. So let's get into the breakdown. So let's start by looking at the E minor shaped bar chord, which at the 7th fret looks like this. And of course here is a B minor chord. Now a couple of things we can do to this chord to make it easier to add some melody notes in. Firstly, let's take away this little finger from the D string, which gives us a B minor 7. Then, instead of playing it with the first finger covering all 6 strings at that 7th fret, move this down so it only covers the top 4 strings. And then, with the thumb, come over the top and play the low E string at the 7th fret. And then we get a complete B minor 7 chord there. And what this does is frees up these fingers here to play melody notes at these frets slightly higher. Now if you've never played chords like this before with the thumb over the top, of course it's going to feel a bit awkward at first, but just remember when you first played bar chords how hard that seemed. So of course it's going to be a bit tricky, but it's a pretty essential technique for a lot of styles, and for some reason some people have been taught not to ever let the thumb go over the top like that, but it really expands your horizons if you can do it. So then in terms of adding melody to this chord, the main notes you're going to want to aim at are these. On the high E, come up 2 frets, which adds in a 9th, a really beautiful sound. Notice I'm often playing these as hammer-ons and pull-offs to add movement. Then on the B string, it's going to be up 3 frets, which you can play either with that same 3rd finger again or with the little finger. Then on the G string, up 2 frets from the chord. And then again on the D string, up 2 frets. A good way to practice this might be to play through the chord and then hammer on and pull off on each of those strings in a kind of triplet rhythm like this. And if you can get that down, then obviously you've got a lot of opportunity then to add in some melody whenever you see this type of minor chord come up. So now let's look at the A minor shaped bar chord, which of course looks like this. Here at the 9th fret, an F sharp minor, which is what I used in that piece at the beginning. Now this time it's a bit easier because we don't need to thumb over the top, but we've still got quite a lot of hammer-ons and pull-offs that we can play with this. So let's just start by looking at, with this normal shape, you can actually hammer on with each of these fingers behind the bar. So D string, come off and hammer on, G string, come off and hammer on, B string, come off and hammer on. So just practice playing through that and hammering onto each one. It's actually a little bit more tricky than it should be. There's something in my brain doesn't know which finger it is that needs to move when I do that. But then secondly with this type of chord, what we can do is this. Take off the little finger, which makes it an F sharp minor 7, and now use this little finger to play some hammer-ons and pull-offs on these higher strings. So firstly, on the high E string, we can come to here, 3 frets up from the bar, and play that note. It's quite hard to hammer on because there's not a huge amount of strength in that little finger, and particularly this high up the neck is tricky. And then same again on the B string. And then again on the G string, but we're just coming back into the 11th fret there, into our previous kind of chord formation. So. So that's the minor chords. Now let's take a look at the major chord shapes. So let's start with the E major type bar chord, which of course looks like this, and here at the 5th fret is an A. Now just like with the E minor type bar chord earlier, where we played the top 4 strings and then bass note with the thumb, we're going to do exactly the same here. But now the top 4 strings in this A chord will look like this: 3rd finger at the 7th fret, 2nd finger at the 6th fret, and then bar at the 5th fret on those top 2 strings, and then thumb over the top again, trying to mute this A if we can. And now, even though I'm muting this A, I am kind of trying to avoid it. You'll notice that a lot in my playing. I'm not bashing against it too much. And then again, we freed up the little finger here to play our melody note. So it's nice and simple with this shape, because all our extra melody notes are going to happen at the same fret, all at the 7th fret here. So first up, high E, here's our 9th there. And then on the B, the 6th there. And then on the G string, play the suspended 4th. So again, we can practice just playing through the chord and then hammering on and pulling off from each of those. Now, because all these extra notes are at the same fret, it means we can easily play multiple notes at the same time. For example, I could play like this and up to this bar here at the 7th fret and just play across those 3 strings together, the D, G and B strings. And that could give me a kind of Stonesy type that kind of vibe, and there's lots of ways I can use that. The other thing I can do with multiple notes at the same time is just play the double stop on the top 2 strings like that. And you heard me doing that quite a lot in that piece at the beginning. Then lastly, let's take a look at the A major shape bar chord, which we normally play like this. And here at the 5th fret, of course, is a D. Now, there's not a lot of scope to play melody notes with our little finger on this, maybe just the sus4 there. So there's something we need to do to shift position here, and what that is this. So all I'm doing is shifting up into this position by moving the bass note from the D here up to the F sharp here, which is the 3rd of the chord, and then the bar changes from being played with my 3rd finger in the normal position up to my 1st finger there. And what I can do is just hammer on using this note in between. So I might start on the 1st beat of the bar, land on the chord there, but then shift with this hammer on up into this position. Now what this does is opens up all the notes from the D major / B minor pentatonic right under my fingers. So normally your pentatonic scale would be here. So I've got all those notes available to me. So we've already got that hammer on the A string, but we can also play the same hammer on up 2 frets on the D string, same on the G string, and then it's going to be up 3 frets on the B string. So a lot of opportunity there. We can also sort of shift over into some little blue notes as well. You know, I'm going up to the 10th there on the G string. That was rubbish, but you get the idea. So now let's listen to that track I put together again and just listen for all these little techniques coming through.